This hysteria, I think, obscures some really serious discussions that we have to have. And I'm happy to finally see some of it being brought up. We touched on it a little bit last week when we were discussing pharmaceuticals and manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, which is odd that you have, you have two candidates out there, Biden and Bernie, who are talking about how drug companies need to pay higher costs, et cetera, et cetera. Keep in mind that those drug companies are the same ones that are making the vaccinations for coronavirus. They're the same ones trying to discover ways in which to combat the antibiotic resistance that so many bacteria are developing because of misuse. So the Trump administration was discussing how in the United States we have relied so much, and I did not admittedly realize until I started reading into it a little bit when I was under the weather with the strep throat, how much we actually rely on China for not just, artificial sweeteners and things like that, but drugs, like prescription medication. I was genuinely shocked. And I thought, this is seriously cannot be happening. The administration said that as a country, we are too dependent on China for vital medicines. But I don't know what all, and the big question is going to be what all can we do as a way to remedy that? Everybody has been too reliant upon cheap manufacturer outside of the country. And I'll tell you what, I do not mind. One of the reasons that the way it is the way it is because we obviously pay our workers more in the United States and we have unions for public sector and private sector, et cetera, right? I do not mind paying more for something that is in the supply chain that we can control and it is manufactured here in the United States. And I guarantee you that 99% of Americans feel the exact same way. Now, I realize that there are certain companies, and it's a more nuanced conversation than that. I fully acknowledge it. There are certain companies, especially a lot of startups, that to get their feet off the ground, startups that turn into successful businesses that employ a lot of the people who previously were looking for jobs, they rely on certain things from countries like China to reduce overhead. I feel like we need to explore better ways to make that happen here in the United States so we can have reasonable pricing. We are making sure people are getting paid according to their work, because in China, they pay like nothing and no protections, even environmental concerns or anything. Obviously, we have those protections and concerns here in the United States. There has to be a way to balance it. I know there is. And I think that's what Washington needs to focus on. So this is what they've been looking at. And this was part of the economic response, the White House response to deal with the economics of this COVID-19 fallout. And the New York Times had a piece getting into some of it and discussing how trade advisor Peter Navarro, this is a push from him, where they're discussing how federal agencies, they want to tighten Buy American laws for federal agencies. And by federal agencies, that's you, the taxpayer. That's me, the taxpayer. It's all of us, the taxpayer. So whenever you hear federal agencies, realize that bill comes due to us. It's important to keep all this out there. Are we serious about making it work? I think I'd like to be. So Navarro is talking about taxpayer-funded federal agencies requiring them to purchase American-made pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, etc. A quick aside, you know how many times I've heard, and I know you all have heard this too, where people are like, oh, the government's picking up the bill. Let's, gouge them, right? Yeah, that's us. We're the government. We pay them. That's our money. The government just shrugs and hands the bill to us, right? The administration has been working on an executive order, and apparently they're going to release this in the next few days. And we only know a few things that are in this thus far. I don't know what, I hate the phrase loopholes. There's either something's illegal or not, right? They want the government to purchase everything like ventilators, face masks, pharmaceuticals, which can be a very generic term. Everything from that, they want that to be American made, American manufactured. And they also, and this is what the hope is that their demand, the government consumption of American-made drugs and American-made medical products will provide an incentive for these companies to make these products here in the United States rather than China. Now, the New York Times notes that in order to facilitate this kind of production, they want streamlined regulatory approvals for American-made products. They want more detailed labeling on the origins of products that are not made in the United States. And Peter Navarro, when he was giving an interview, he discussed how China was dominating all aspects of the supply chain. And that's true. I mean, when you use cheap sweatshop labor, when you are basically keeping your citizenry as indentured servants to produce things that the government and communist class benefit from, yeah, I mean, that's what makes them affordable. There is still a price. It may not be money, but there is a price. All for that.